worldwide fans of the planet's hottest entertainment with an edge. I'm Jaime En Fuego, and I am supremely stoked as always to welcome you to my namesake program, Enfuegotainment. That's right, you can just call me Fuego for short, and I'm coming at you with another fresca Fuego film review here today on a Friday. That's right, and that's usually Thursday or Friday when you can see a review of a brand new film that is just hitting theaters, or sometimes, home screens or VOD or whatever the hell. But typically I'd like to have a theater experience on a Thursday evening or Friday morning just to get this out ASAP to you. And I'm talking about a film called Stuber, Kumail Nanjiani, if I'm pronouncing his name properly, who was in The Big Sick and Silicon Valley, if I'm not mistaken. And then you've got this rise and wrestler who's kind of like butting heads with John Cena to be the second coolest wrestler actor in none other than Dave Bautista, who honestly had another film coming out where he's a cop paired with this little kid that I was super stoked for as well, and that's apparently been shelved for a TBA sometime in 2020 because I think that was supposed to be coming out later this year. But yeah, so this is essentially violent, R-rated buddy cop sort of thing, and I have loved these sort of films since I was a little kid, and my dad was watching like Midnight Run, and then later on, not so much buddy cop, it's a hitman movie, but there's a movie called The Big Hit with Lou Diamond Phillips and Mark Wahlberg that I have always loved. These really violent, R-rated action comedies when the comedy is a little bit more at the forefront, but the violence is definitely of a more just grotesque, over-the-top level. And Stuber legit lives up to that sort of DNA and formula and stuff. And it's a pretty fun movie, man. I really quite enjoyed this one. And here on Enfuegotainment, I always like to cover Bueno, Malo, and Feo, just like you see below right there, the good, the bad, and the ugly in the silly Fuego tropes. And the Bueno for this is the fact that Michael Dowse, who is this Canadian filmmaker who honestly has been on my radar since Fubar, which is like this mockumentary heavy metal silliness, and they made a sequel to that too. But American audiences checked out Goon with Stifler, or whatever the hell his name is, Sean William Scott, which was quite fun. And then he also did, I guess the most Americanized of his stuff is Take Me Home Tonight, with Topher Grace and Anna Faris and whatnot. So, the guy has a decent background in comedy with like weird, I guess Take Me Home Tonight had little bits of weird action and stuff. I don't supremely remember that film. It wasn't particularly memorable for me. I remember enjoying it well enough. But yeah, so this is definitely living up to the R-ratedness, that is for damn sure. It's very funny and very vulgar and stuff, and I guess I'll get to some of that in the ugly, but really for a film like this to work is you have to have two good performances and you have to have great chemistry, and you actually have to have a decent enough story, even if it is kind of on the silly side at times, but it's executed quite well because of the fact that we get great performances from our two leads. You genuinely believe Bautista is this kind of just hardened cop who's much more concerned with avenging his partner who gets killed in the first few minutes of the film. And I was like, Karen Gillan, no, no, no. And yeah, it's 6 months later, and he's like, they play up this fact that, he's lost his eyesight. And so, he's, his eyesight has been going downhill, and it's lost temporarily in the film because of the fact that he decides for whatever reason to get LASIK surgery on the same day that his daughter is doing her first big art exhibition. So yeah, obviously the guy isn't prioritizing properly. He's much more concerned with good eyesight, crack case, solve the, this avenging of my, lost compadre, comrade and whatever. And so, yeah, he plays that up well, but it's just really funny once he gets the back and forth banter going with Nanjiani, because, Nanjiani is this guy who works at kind of like a, I don't know, it's a sporting goods type of store, I guess a Big Five is probably the thing that you would most directly compare it to. And it's in LA, and yet he spends the rest of his time doing Uber driving because he's trying to open this business with his best friend who he's in love with, and she's dating douchebags. Yes, these are all cliche tropes and stuff like that, but all of these tropes and the fact that, Bautista can't see, so he needs an Uber, and he's, just trying to crack this case, and, he gets a lead from an informant, and then he goes, and it's just like jumping from weird scenario to weird scenario, and they're all just well framed and pretty funny, actually. You know, there's one in particular at a male strip club that I was just dying laughing at some of the stuff going on. I mean, few things are funnier to me than male nudity and just dong schlonging around and stuff like that. And I mean, there's one bit in particular where Nanjiani's character is on a video call with his, you know, with his love interest, or, you know, hopeful love interest, and, you know, it's just very amusing, and some advice that he gets from this male stripper is really funny. And I mean, the dialogue is quick and witty and fun, and you could tell that just Nanjiani was able to just riff on it. He probably did a lot of takes on some of these bits, and a lot of the humor lands. A lot of it really does. The action is violent and fun, and it's well shot too, you know, and yes, you get just a lot of great chemistry and fun, just, you know, back and forth banter between our two leads, especially as Bautista, you know, Nanjiani's character slowly, you know, Stu, as his character's name Stu, and hence the Stuber, you know, and Bautista keeps calling him Steve, which is so funny. But the characters of Vic and Stu, they make the movie despite the illogical wackiness of all of the situations that they get into. And I guess that is where I will jump into the MALO, is because this is legit very check your brain in at the door. And I mean, with mindless action with tons of comedy at the forefront, I mean, that is to be expected in this, but there is legit a lot of very reckless behavior throughout this film. Like, I mean, even in the opening sequence, like, we're talking about Karen Gillan and, you know, Bautista running through crowds and shooting at assailants that they're trying to in these big crowds of people, shooting and stuff, and you're just like, man, is this just some very, I think that some police would be in a mucho amount of trouble if that was the sort of just stupidity. And there's a lot of other just scenes where, you know, Bautista's supposed to be blind, and yet he's somehow, they try to explain how he's shooting these people so precisely and so well, where even at the very beginning of the film where he's taking his glasses off and he's in the practice range and he's way the hell off. Apparently, I don't know, instincts kick in to some degree. There's one bit at an animal hospital where this big shootout goes down, and it's just, I don't know, you really have to just be accepting of the explanation, and you're just like, sure guys, sure, whatever, you know. But yeah, lots of the check your brain in, as my father would say. And honestly, not all of the humor does hit. It is rapid fire, jokes a minute sort of bits, and you know, I mean, you're not gonna nail them all, and there's some stuff where you're just like, you know, that's not that funny, you know, but yet there's other jokes that really do land in a very legit fashion, and it's really not always the dialogue as much as just some of the silly situations that these two find themselves in as they go, you know, from place to place, as they go from, you know, Compton to Long Beach to, you know, just going all over the place and just trying to, you know, track clue after clue to get to the heart of this drug smuggler that, you know, they started in Koreatown, and then they go to Compton, and then they just, you know, bounce all over the place and stuff, and just trying to get to the head of this proverbial snake and stuff. So yeah, it's very just illogical in some of the stuff that goes down, and not all of the humor hits. And honestly, to a degree, especially something that ends up transpiring at the very end of the movie, you see it telegraphed a mile away, and it has to do with just two characters, and just to what seems like a means to an end, and just an inevitable sort of thing with the dynamic of two other characters, I guess. And so now we get to the ugly, and the ugly is the fact that this movie legit lives up to its R rating. It's very feo in the fact that, yeah, it's you know, you see male frontal nudity. There is some, when the violence does come, like, we're talking headshots, and I mean, like, exploding propane blowing up faces, and I mean, it is pretty violent. And there is, you know, I have to say it's ugly because I was just like, how in the hell is this guy doing it? You know, it is just crazy ugly, his talent, and like the fact that a stuntman would do, you know, something of this nature. Our main bad guy, who's this heroin smuggler, when Karen Gillan and Bautista are tracking him at the very beginning of the film, he's doing this thing where he's like dropping from level to level, and so there's like the whole like long circle staircase in this like, you know, I guess high-rise that they're in, and so it's open in the middle, and then the stairs circle around, and what this guy is doing is he's basically dropping like Jackie Chan style from ledge to ledge to ledge, and it's pretty damn impressive, and I'm just like, whew, that is an ugly stunt, man, and I am just very impressed with just how ugly, scary what he was doing was. But yeah, it lives up to the fail in the R rating and stuff. And so I guess if I am going to give this a final rating, it's definitely not 4 out of 5, unfortunately, because by the end of it, it does become kind of a slog, you know, by the end, and it is only like around 90 minutes, I want to say. So if it was kind of dragging by the end of that, I'm just like, okay, another setup, another place they have to go before, you know, they still have to go somewhere else to finally wrap everything up. So, you know, but I still enjoyed it enough. The laughs were good, and I was endeared by the 2 leads enough that I will give this 3 out of 5. Fuego fireballs! That's right, this is a bueno movie, and albeit a very kind of forgettable one in some ways, but, you know, if you have about 90 minutes to kill, well, nearly 2 hours if you include the 25 minutes of trailers at the AMC where I saw this. My God, it just has gotten worse and worse over the years with all of the stuff that we have to watch before a movie even begins at this point. It's so aggravating. But yeah, this is a bueno movie. 3 out of 5, as I said. So I've been Jaime En Fuego. You can find moi on all social media sectors like Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, obviously here on YouTube, where later this month there is going to be another Star Wars installment. Yep, that is right. I've been doing a review of 1 film a month as we creep up to The Rise of Skywalker, Episode 9, which is coming out in December. Also, a little bit more comic coverage. I just picked up the Stranger Things comic book, and Cecil on our other channel has already reviewed it, but I'm actually thinking I want to do a just 3-season, just kind of comparison discussion briefly about the show. And yeah, I mean, I had a lot of fun watching the 3rd season with the lady, and yeah, I mean, I'm going to do that comic at some particular point, and yes, it does involve scary stuff, but I have made the occasional detour here on Enfuegotainment if it has already been covered proper on the horror show. And if you're here and don't know what the hell the horror show is, that's the big YouTube channel. This is just my little side shooter thing that I, you know, urge you and implore you to please, if you haven't, you know, like and share and subscribe and do all that stuff, trying to get to the 1 Jeezy subscribership, because I had a nice rush of subscribers a few years ago when I first started this, and then I gave full attention to the horror show. But the horror show deserves lots of attention with all of the different people that we have slowly amassed over time. YouTube.com/The Horror Show channel, where we do trailer reactions, we do film reviews, comic reviews, TV reviews, book reviews. That's where I do my Hail to Stephen King show, if you're unfamiliar. And Cecil and myself just reviewed Crawl, the Gator Hurricane movie, which was badass and which I absolutely loved. So if you want to see that review, jump over to the horror show, and yeah, there's lots of fun stuff to check out there as well. So I guess I'm going to say this is finito, at least for the momento. So I will give my typical sign off as it has become as of late. So until the reel of Ka comes around once more, I shall say hasta luego, cinemigos. But I am hopeful that we get to share more of this film palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, peace out.